dear students, myself Dr. Preeti Bala. Presently, I am working as assistant professor in IMS UC campus, and my expertise area in AI and ML. I am going to be cover the topic which is the clustering. Okay, and so the learning objective of the topic is what is clustering and types of clustering. So when we talk about the clustering, before know this concept that what is the clustering, what exactly the clustering does, and what the meaning of the clustering, where we use the clustering. Basically, we use the clustering in a machine learning. And when we talk about the machine learning, there is three types of machine learning. But in all these concepts, we are training our machine. We are we are making the models for the machine. We are giving the inputs to our machine, and accordingly our machine is giving us the output. Okay, so whatever data you are providing to your machine, the machine will exactly give you the result. So that's why the data is very important. Either we are talking about the clustering, either we are talking about the classification, either we are talking about the types of machine learning models, whatever. But before starting this and before knowing this, you should know the very basic concepts of data, that what data we are providing to our machine when we are training, when we are giving the training to our machine, and what exactly the data, that how we are fetching those data, how we are collecting the data. So what data and the way you are collecting the data, these two most important part when you are making a model. Okay, so errors using inadequate data are much less than those using no data at all. It means that if you are using a wrong data, so definitely you will receive the wrong information. Okay, so the data should be very qualitative, and data should be very, what would you call, that is a very relevant data. If you are collecting the weak data, then you cannot get a right information what exactly you wanted from your data. So that's the one. The second one, that if you talk about the data, if you don't know that how to ask the right question, you discover nothing. It's a very important that if you don't know that, you must have heard about the GIGO concept. That is, if you are giving the garbage input to your machine, then definitely you will receive the garbage output. So that's why we should know that what is the data, the way we are collecting the data, and how we are collecting the data. Okay, what data we are collecting and how we are collecting the data, then all the analytics, the machine learning model, the training of machine, that can be only happen with this concept, that the data is the most important part of all these exercises. That is the case number one. Okay, then come to the this exactly, that what is the clustering. When we talk about the clustering is nothing but it is the technique of unsupervised machine learning. So let's have a look about the cluster analysis, which is defined as an unsupervised classification of data into various clusters. Clustering can be looked upon as a method unsupervised learning under various machine learning techniques. Cluster analysis can be found in numerous fields. Say for example, in machine learning, in pattern recognition, in data mining, in market analysis, image segmentation, and biometrics. These all are the basically applications of the cluster analysis. You have a look this picture and you can have a better idea that what is the machine learning types that the supervised. The majorly when we define the machine learning, it's basically two types, one which is the supervised and the other one that is the unsupervised learning. But if you look at the machine learning is a very similar to the human learning. Only the key difference between the human learning and machine learning, that machine is not an adaptive learning but human is an adaptive learning. You can learn from your circumstances, environment, sources. There's a different things around you, and you can learn, you can receive the data in your mind and you store the information. Accordingly, you start to reacting. Okay, but when you talk about the machine, whatever data you have provided to your machine, like I have taken the example previously that garbage input and garbage output. So this is the main difference. I hope that you must have got the concept of machine learning and human learning. There is only the key difference that we are the adaptive learning and the machine is not in adaptive. Whatever data we are providing to our machine will accordingly respond. There is a two major part. If we are talking about the types of machine learning, majorly there is a four types of machine learning, but here we only talk about the two most popular types of machine learning, one which is a supervised and other one that is the unsupervised machine learning. You can clearly see in the picture that here the machine know that what is the input and output. You must have the label data set, and when you talk about the unsupervised machine learning, you don't have the label data set. Here we have the training data set as well as the testing data set, but in unsupervised learning, we don't have the training data set. Okay, so if you look at the supervised machine learning, as the name indicates, the presence of a supervisor as a teacher. Basically, supervised learning is a learning in which we teach or train the machine using data which is labeled. Okay, that means some data is already tagged with the correct answer. After that, the machine is provided with a few examples so that supervised learning algorithm analysis the learning data and produces the correct outcome from a labeled data. It means that like if I'm just giving you instruction in a lab that if you will give this input, you must have received this output. So I'm the supervisor and I'm giving you and under my supervision, you are making a program. So before result, that what should be the output, and accordingly I'm just giving you continuously training and you are just expecting the output should be like that. But when we giving the training to our model, we use the 70% to 80% data to train the model and 10 to 20% data for as a testing data. We want to test our machine that whatever we given the instruction to our machine is exactly responding or not accordingly. Okay, if you take an example for the supervised machine learning, suppose you are giving a basket filled with a different kind of fruits. Okay, now the first is to train the machine with all different fruits by one on the basis of their shape, on the basis of their size, on the basis of their color. So shape, if the object is rounded at the top having color red, then it will be labeled as an apple. If the shape object is curving, cylindrical, having color green, yellow, that will be labeled as a banana. So when the testing data will come, it means when you put the banana, it will labeled as a banana and it will labeled as a apple. Okay, whatever characteristics you define when you were training your model. So this is about the supervised machine learning. But when you talk about the unsupervised machine learning, we don't have the label data set. We don't have any supervision. We are just making the clusters on their basis of their characteristics, and we are putting them together into one group. So clustering is the process of organizing data into meaningful groups called the cluster. So clustering is a technique of unsupervised machine learning. And if you look at the supervised machine learning, there is basically two types of techniques that we are using. One which is the classification and the other one that is the regression. Cluster analysis is an iterative process of knowledge discovery. Example, demonstrate the cluster of balls of same type. So I'm just giving you the example. You have a look of these balls. Okay, there are 9 balls, the black, green and white. And what exactly we, on the basis of their shape, their color, I'm just putting them into one group clusters. Black in one cluster, white in one cluster and green in one cluster. So I don't have any idea about all these concepts, but in spite of though, what I'm doing in unsupervised machine learning, basis of their physical appearance, basis of their physical characteristics, what I am doing, I am putting them into one basket. Okay, one cluster. So this is basically the concept of cluster. The similar group of object you are grouping in one cluster. The other, you are just try to find out the similarities between the objects. So today what we are just trying to understand over here, that what is the cluster and what exactly we do with the cluster. So there is a majorly three types of cluster: exclusive, which is known as the hard clustering; overlapping clustering, that is also known as the soft clustering; and hierarchical clustering. So exclusive clustering, that is the hard clustering, that you may see in the PPT that there is a nothing is similar between two clusters. You can take an example. If you go for a dinner, okay, and you book table T1, and other people, they came on same time and they booked the table T2, okay, but you don't have any relation, you don't know anyone, which is known as the exclusive clustering. There is no similarity between you. Hard clustering and k-mean clustering is one of the example of that we are using in this. It means there is no similarity between the ball and the banana. Are you getting my point? So there is the exclusive clustering. So if you look at the overlapping clustering, so the same example, we are going for a dinner, we booked a table T1, and some people came and they booked the table T2. But what happened? The some of them, I know them. So table T1 and table T2, some data points they know. It might be they are my colleague, they are my family member, they are my relatives. So this is basically these data points, they are similar. So what exactly this is known as the overlapping clustering. It means you have a some property, you have a some characteristics, they are similar. So in one cluster, the data points and the other cluster have a data points, but those data points have a some similarities. And the fuzzy C-mean clustering is an example of overlapping clustering. Then come to the hierarchical clustering. Hierarchical clustering is also known as a cluster analysis, is an algorithm that groups similar objects into a group called cluster. But this clustering is something different from the exclusive and the overlapping clustering. If you look at the hierarchical clustering, we are trying to find out the little bit similarity between the data points. It might be that we do have the 6 data points A, B, C, D, E, but they are not similar to each other. So what we are trying to find out the similarity between A and B. So we are finding that there is some similarity between A and B. So we are grouping together. Then we are trying to find out A, B together and trying to find out the similarity A, B and C. So we found that A, B in one group and C is another group, and there is some similarity. Then we put them into one group. So we continuously we are doing this, because initially we look at this, that this is the iterative process. So we are doing this process, and we try to make up that all 6 points should be in a one group. That is known as the hierarchical clustering. So I hope that we will continue this clustering concept in the next class as well, and there will be the k-mean clustering, there will be the some other clustering concepts that we are using, and the applications of clustering, how we are using the unsupervised learning. And this technique is using broadly on a different manners, basically in a fraud detection and grouping data sets into one point. There is a multiple algorithm that we are using in a cluster.